Morena, good morning. Welcome to Yarn With. In this case, it's a TALANOA Live with our special guest all the way from San Francisco. And it's the Raiders, isn't it? I was almost going to say the Giants. This is Robett Hollis, who needs no introduction. But I had fun putting together your intro for the post for this morning and didn't realize just how much you had done. Let's chuck out their pro snowboarder, huge accomplishments worldwide. And then, I don't know, about a gazillion businesses. So from pro snowboarder, and let's not forget basketball and football for New Zealand. Just, if you haven't got anything to do on a Sunday, let's crack those two out as well. So it's a great honour to have you here on TALANOA Live. And this is all about listen and share with respect because, the keyboard warriors out there go crazy. And we've already had them on the Facebook side going nuts. It's been quite enjoyable having a bit of a chat with them. But what we're looking for are a diverse range of perspectives. And you bring a really special one because you're residing in San Francisco, another country. Well, America, this country. But you're going to be able to give us a bit of a perspective of what's happening there compared to what's happening here. But first of all, if you could give us a bit of an intro, what have you been up to lately? How's it going?
Good. First off, props on your run for doing this. I think anytime you can leverage a Rolodex to be able to get insights and IP from others to share at scale through stuff like that, I think it's really important. So, the stuff you're doing through this is good. So first up, props for that. It's I think as well, what I saw from last year with it is when people are physically isolated from each other, their head can spin in their own mind because they're not physically connecting with anyone else. And there feels like a lot of the stuff that was happening mentally now, it feels like we're either round 2 or round 3, but obviously potentially a year later for it. So, one of the biggest challenges that I said from day one was going to be the long tail of the mental health and side effects for it. Obviously there's a battle between commerce, community, and culture in some respects. It feels like kind of round 2 a little bit, watching it obviously from afar. But what have I been up to? I'll be honest, Ryan, I've deleted all my social media off my cell phone, and I have been off the grid for about the last month. It's been great. I haven't seen anything from anyone. I've just been off. And I do it usually about once every 18 months or so. So I literally just went and checked on my LinkedIn and I saw a whole bunch of shit that you tagged me in, which I didn't even see because I don't have it on my phone. So I apologize because I literally right. I just went off the flipping grid. But what have I been doing is I've actually been golfing a whole bunch. And what I've been doing is calling a whole bunch of people that I know personally and having a whole bunch of in-person chats, more one-to-one. So that's what I've been up to, my friend. I've been off the grid, working on some stuff and cruising. So that's in a nutshell what I've been up to.
When I was looking at your profile to get a bit of info about you and check the details, I noticed the big pause symbol and it had 3 weeks ago, and I was like, I thought it's been quiet. So yeah, that would be going back 3-4 weeks. And it's good fun. Running AFQY, one of the big things I realized is I'm always running AFQY. I don't actually get to stop and have a yarn with the people that come. So I haven't gone off grid, but I have been doing a similar thing and making a huge effort to connect with people for a personal korero. So yeah, totally understand it. It does give you a huge amount of time back when you're not responding to all those tags.
Well, I think it becomes a thing around creation over consuming, right? If you're creating with value, it makes sense. If you're consuming with no value add or no kind of insights or IP thinking, it sort of detracts from the opportunities of where things can go. And what I've found every time I've done one is, I'll usually do it either for personal stuff or business stuff. Usually for the business stuff will be I'll go off the flipping grid and I'm actually doing shit. And then when it pops back up, then, it's like, surprise, here's something. And so that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment. And then so soon there'll be a surprise, here's something. And that's it. But no, it's just quite surreal seeing it. One other thing I'd probably say as well, Ron, is when you're in lockdown, and I was always physically detached, I always feel I would miss out for New Zealand because I physically wasn't in the room with energy. But as soon as everyone was on lockdown, I realized that everyone's in a room with internet connection and a laptop. And I have done that for the last 20 years. So I said, wait a second, the liability is now an asset. So I actually flipped my headspace around thinking what could be created remotely or virtually to be able to either keep up presence or connections or starting businesses or doing whatever else as well. So sometimes the perspective of how you see things can change. And one of the things I've realized over time is, more often than not, the liability is actually the asset. You could say that around energy, around people, around culture, and whatever. And that's one of the other things that I've noticed.
That's pretty deep for 8 a.m. in the morning. The liability is the asset. So tell us about San Francisco. I'm really keen to get this perspective of what's happening in America. Like, you know, we're in lockdown over here, and we're chatting off screen before, and I said, oh, that's why everyone puts you've gone into lockdown for one case of COVID. How crazy. So give us a bit of a picture of what San Francisco is doing right now.
You know, the United States is great for a lot of things, but one thing the United States is not is united. What has become pretty clear over the last little while is everyone's in their own little bubble. Every pocket is its own little world, and every, you know, state is its own little country, and every county is its own little island. And so there's all these kind of different levels. So from day one, there's never been probably pure alignment from top to bottom, because I think probably the clear thing, which you don't need to look too dig into, is science got politicized. So what happened was pretty clear. It was you're anti-vax this or pro this or whatever it may be. And so unfortunately, when science gets politicized, masses can get hurt, and a lot of people have, you know, obviously been hurt either, you know, financially or with health from it. So, but I mean, in context, this last year and a half has been pretty nuts, because you've gone through obviously lockdown stuff. The world stopped. Like, I remember I was watching the basketball game when, you know, the game stopped, and like Mark Cuban was there, was holy shit, what's going on here? I went to the gym the night it all sort of shut down. I was looking around and everyone like disappeared, and you know, then we had fires, then we had the George Floyd stuff, then there's the riots, and you know, like, it got to a spot where we live in San Francisco. It's quite a nice area. We had, like, I had to sleep on the front couch with a gun because someone had tweeted that the mobs were going to come where we live, because they were going to try and, you know, rob and whatever, because we live in a nice area. And I'm lying there on the front couch holding a gun going, what is happening? Like, what is this shit? And so yeah, it's been quite surreal.
First of all,
yeah.
How did you get a gun? You just walked down to the corner theory, or did you have to buy it illegally, or?
Look, this is America, mate. The guns are hiding everywhere. You don't need to look far in America for a gun, I'll tell you that much. And now that I've got two daughters, aged 4 and 2, and they're cute as shit, I think I'm going to have to get more, because in 10 years, I'm going to have some issues. But I'm going to put Ring cameras all around the house, and no one will be able to get in, so it's fine. But yeah, it's just, you know, so you kind of go through this, you go through a surreal sort of energy where you get, you know, kind of fear, and then you see the vaccines, there's hope, and then there's tension and strife. It's, you know, I guess in a nutshell, it would be emotional roller coaster overload, but at a top line, America's like YOLO, get vaccinated and get on with living, basically.
So we were talking about this earlier, that you know, there's still a high number of cases happening, but you just go about your life with a mask on, basically, by the sounds of it.
Well, it changes in different areas. You know, so like if you're in LA at the moment, you don't need to have masks on inside, I don't think. But in our county in San Fran, you do. So as ironically, insanely idiotic as it sounds, the process to go and have breakfast at a restaurant right now is you walk outside without a mask on. You hit the door, you put a mask on. You go to the counter and say, hey, I'd like, you know, table for 2. You wear your mask on until you sit down, and then you take your mask off, and then you just like talk and yell and do whatever you want. And then when you go to the bathroom, then you put your mask on, you walk, you know, 10 feet from the room to the bathroom, and then you come back out, and then you take your mask off again, you just drink and talk shit, whatever you're going to do. And then when you finish, then you put your mask on, go up to the front counter, take it to the door, and you take it off. So that is the current process in the county that I am in. Now, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I can understand both sides of it, but they're, you know, different places have different ways of dealing with these things, and time will be the true test of who's done it right and wrong.
Oh, hey, look, it's not about, just for everyone out there especially, it's not about who's doing it right or wrong in this discussion. It's just about understanding what it's like in a different country for me, because, you know, I hear, let's put it this way, we go into lockdown, I go, oh, phew. My wife's, hugely compromised health-wise, and if she got a whiff of it, she'd be going burgers. So I'm quite happy. And then you don't really think about it, but someone else goes, why are we going to lockdown for only one case? And you're like, because it could turn into 100 today, 200 tomorrow, 1,000 the next day, and me the day after. So I'm quite happy with this. But then when you hear about the States, and who was it? We had a person from England on, and she said, oh, yeah, we're averaging 6,125 new hospitalizations. So if you think of, there must be 70,000 cases, 6,000 hospitalizations. Said no one cares, because at the height of it in the UK, it was far worse. So that point about the emotional roller coaster, they've been desensitized and they just don't care. And we're sitting here going, we've got one case, we're all in lockdown countrywide. So it's some stark differences. And, I haven't myself got around the concept of when New Zealand goes to the way the States are and the UK are, where we just go about a business like every day with it and the potential that I could come home with it. I haven't got my head around that. Can't quite get my head around that. So it's...
Well, I think there's two levels of conversation, right? The conversation that people are having is around the topic of, hey, this is kind of, this is a bit stuff, lockdown, this and that. The issue would essentially being two. One would be supply chain management from a national side, leveraging its relationships with pharmaceutical companies and to get asset, stock. And the second one would be technology, which is how do you enable scaled up services of digital products to actually be able to help others at scale. So if you look at now, what I've realized, and in the past I've judged a lot from afar without seeing in. What I've got to see over time is there's always levels to the shit, right? So we see this lens, and you got one level and it's like, cool, I'm now a minister and I've got access to this much more data and info. So this is actually what I know. Then you get one more above it, one more above it. And what you usually find all the way up the top table, as soon as you have an intersection between, people's needs and profit and currency and products and ego and power and national and whatever it may be, pretty much 99.9% of the time, what you are hearing on the streets is not what's actually happening. So that's why I kind of, been fortunate enough to know smart people that know lots of stuff, and I have empathy for everyone's situation within it. Everyone's intent is obviously right, but more often than not, the execution on the ground is usually disconnected from the narrative or the optics of what's actually going on. And I guess I'm trying to answer this because I've got homies on both political sides and I know shit. I'm like, okay, how do I say something but without getting in trouble? I guess
you could liken it to a big business, right? So senior management probably doesn't have quite the same view as the coalface, of the 3,000th worker in the organisation. So, going up the levels and the change of view makes really good sense. And
also as well, Ryan, on that, what I was saying, and I say that because everyone's been reactionary because the case got in. Well, in the States, because everyone's obviously not vaccinated to herd mentality or whatever it is. Immunity, sorry. In the States, they're throwing away vaccines because they're not getting used because there's millions and millions again things. So from a supply chain issue, let's just hypothetically rewind back 6 months, and there was 10 million that just dropped up at the doorstep. And if we had 80% herd immunity through it, I think the potential strategy of what the nation might be doing would potentially be different. And what I can say is, access to certain stuff becomes from relationships with people in power or private companies or public companies, whatever it may be. I just think that the conversations in New Zealand would be a lot different if supply chain had either more leverage, more access to stock, and whether it be a pricing thing or a leverage thing or whatever it may be. But that, once again, there's levels to the shit. That's what I'm talking about. It's like, just go up, zoom out a bit. And I think when you zoom all the way and then get to see, that's one. But at a macro, what I would say, Ryan, is the narrative around New Zealand as a brand has definitely changed over the last couple of months being here in the States. Seen it, there's kind of been a lot more, there's a lot more questioning of strategy based on what's been happening. But, you rewind back, put yourself in New Zealand shoes. If you don't have enough vaccinations and it's going to get in, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to spread, and then eventually people are going to die, right? So it's a tricky one to navigate, which is why I am bloody lucky that I'm not in politics, my friend.
Yes, it's going to be one of the tougher jobs of our lifetime, I think, to be managing COVID from a government point of view. So, been seeing you playing a little bit of golf. How's the handicap?
Mate, I'm getting flipping good, dude. Like, I'm playing so much golf because I haven't done, and I say this really proudly because I usually shoot like 110 or 100 or whatever. Like, I'm shit, but I haven't been able to, I haven't seen any of my homies in like a year and a half. I haven't like traveled or done anything. I've done shit. So I've been golfing heaps, and I still cheat like quite a bit, but I cheat consistently, so my score is relative to my cheating. So but I'm doing way better, and so as soon as I can travel and do more. But golf's been good, and that's why I kind of multitask. I'll go golf by myself, like in the afternoon. I'll be on calls in New Zealand doing other work stuff and whatever. But golf is going bloody great, and I'm hyped. And I cheated, but I got an 80 and a 79, which is like really good for me. But I still kind of cheated, so it doesn't fully count. Yeah.
Is that for the full 18, or is that just for the first 9?
Well, it used to be for the first 9, but now it's the full 18. I'm watching YouTube videos. I'm getting the apps. I'm going to doing swing trainings. I'm doing all sorts of stuff. But no, it's good. And so yeah. No,
so you're gonna add pro golf to the list?
No, dude. I've been on just since I did my exits a couple of years ago. I haven't done anything in 3 years. I've been kind of present dad life, So just first daughter just turned 4, second daughter is 2, and I've been probably ridiculously more present than most, and I think that's probably one of the coolest things. So that's what I've been doing for the last couple of years. Everyone thinks, yes, I'm busy and I do other stuff as well. Like, that doesn't really count, I don't think, because it's not really like stuff. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I just downplay it, but yeah, I'm up to piss on, mate. I'm being dead. It's been really cool, actually. Yeah, Gil dad.
Nice one. So, if you're able to travel, have you been around different parts out of San Fran? Have you crossed into the border of, I don't know, where's next? Been to Vegas? How's Vegas?
I did go to Vegas. Yeah, Vegas was weird. I had kind of freaked out. Just being around people again. I hadn't sat next to anyone in over a year and a half, and I sat on a plane, and I got not claustrophobic, but you sort of miss people and strangers, and there was fear, and yeah, that was kind of funky. But yeah, they just don't really care. So yeah, been down there, which was cool. And yeah, it's been about it. But not too much travel. Like logistically wise, I've probably done, I'd be on planes every sort of, often, and I haven't done any of it. And I miss traveling, but at the same time, I'm enjoying the consistency of being present, which I think is also awesome as well. So it's been a blessing on that side.
Yeah, no, you made an analogy at the beginning, and it didn't quite mention or be a reference to being present, but it made me think about being present. But coming back to your point around the first time you had people sitting around you, and it was a bit different. You mentioned a year and a half. So was the States in lockdown for a year and a half, or were you personally choosing to stay for a year and a half?
Yeah, well, I think was it February or March? I'm not sure when the exact date. It just went into shutdown. So we didn't. It didn't open back up till only a couple months ago, really. But basically, it was everything like shut, like gym closed, everything closed. The train stopped working. No one was in the city. I went once to the city in, I think it was maybe August, and it was a ghost town. There was just like homeless people sort of taken over. There was nothing. It's surreal, dude. Surreal. No one. No humans around.
What's that Will Smith movie?
I Am Legend. Yeah.
Yeah. As soon as I saw your video, that's exactly what I thought. I was like, far out. That is weird. I mean, when it first happened, and I think it was March. Was it March 24th or 25th? Lockdown started here in New Zealand, 2020, and I was saying, people were quite surprised when I said, this is going to be like a zombie apocalypse. So we're going to have people climbing over fences, trying to break in to raid my fridge or sleep in the house. Like, how bad is this going to get? And they're like, what do you mean? It's like, well, there's no work and there's no money and there's no money going through and no one's got any money to buy food or pay their rent, do they get kicked out? Do they, what happens? But thankfully, we're this far down the track and none of that type of stuff has happened. But that video certainly made me feel like it could. So you talked about the homeless sort of taking over when the place was in lockdown. Any crazy stories? Do they have squatters' rights in the US?
Not sure, but it got definitely sketchy. Like, because then people were starting to roll. Like the one time I went to the city in August. The last train back was at like 9:30 or something at night. And I went to or maybe it was 7:30 or 9:30 or 7:30, either way. Went on and like basically crew just going around and robbing people, at knife point and stuff and gunpoint in the trains. And the train I was on, 3 dudes rolled up. One dude sat on the back side of me, one dude sat at the front door, and one guy was on walkout. And I was like, here we go. And so literally it's a whole setup, and they're about to roll me because they could see my camera bag. So I like carry a knife on me and stuff. And so as you do, and I just like leaned forward, eyeballed him, and I'd pray. The thing is, if they got guns, you stuff. But if they got knives, and I'm 6'2", 6'3", way over 100. I can get active. But I'm sitting there thinking, like, dude, imagine if this is how like you die, like just getting shanked in some flipping train, trying to go home from 3 dudes about to roll you for your Panasonic GH5 or whatever. And then basically I just kept eyeballing the one dude, and I leant forward and had my hand in my jacket, so it made it look like I had a gun, but I had a knife. And then he kept looking and looking. I just kept looking straight, but I was eyeballing him so he could see that I was looking at him, and he was the guy that was going to make the call for the other 2 to go, and then it was just going to be 3-on-1. But lucky enough, like nothing happened. I rolled, and I was like, stuff that shit. And I came home and I told wifey, I'm like, this is stuffed. Like, I'm not doing that. Like, what are we doing? Like, I don't want to float. I got 2 young daughters at home. I don't want to get stabbed in a flipping train cart. Like, oh, jeez. But it's just sketchy, man. That stuff that. And I've been in enough sketchy situations in my life, but I think perspective change. You get some kids in the mix, and you're like, dude, Dad's got to get home and put into bed and get your 8-ounce bottle of milk sorted, not flipping being in a hospital because you got shanked for someone trying to jack your cell phone. Like, stuff that.
No, absolutely. I mean, it reminds me, I just got my first cell phone in the UK in 1999. We had I was running a bar, and we had a after party. And I think it was probably daylight the next morning because tubes are running the next morning. They start at 6. And I was so wasted. And these 2 guys got me in the one stretch of the corridor that has no camera. And I just went, don't touch me, cell phone, tips, there's cash in that pocket. Yep. So, and they just went boof, boof, and took, I don't know, probably about £600-700 worth of tips and cash and a brand new cell phone. And then I slid over. But if I'd been sober, I might have tried to fight. But I was that drunk. I was just like, no, take it.
No,
yeah,
life's too short to piss around with that.
Don't want to die in the subway. Fucking no, that would be especially not with whānau. So, what's next? What's on the horizon with COVID in America, San Francisco? Is there stuff happening in the news that sort of gives a bit of a feel for where they're going next, or perhaps even? Well, we probably want to stay away from the withdrawal from Afghanistan, but I imagine there's a lot of support for the service people, like the service person walks into a cafe, everyone jumps up to buy them a coffee type thing.
Yeah, that's always been kind of America in a nutshell, And my wife's been a nurse, my brother-in-law's a firefighter, his partner's a cop, and my sister's been in the Air Force for 20 years and Army now, so I definitely get that. The States in a nutshell, it's still just so fragmented in terms of the energy. If you look at the pockets of who's getting hospitalized where, and if you put an overlap of political views, there's usually some direct correlation. Some other spots is, kind of freedom, all the rest of it. But it always becomes that tension of health and safety for yourself and for others. And that usually comes with tension around freedom and the right to expression and the right of your own body and all the rest of it. So, once again, I think, unfortunately, science got politicized and there's been lots of casualties for it, which sucks. But at the same time, I don't actively look at the news here, the mainstream stuff and all that as well. If it's my kind of opinion on news is if it's important, it will get to me. If it's important, it'll get to me, regardless what it is. So right now, I'm more concerned about the fires in South Lake Tahoe because my bro just got evacuated out, and I've been there for 20 years, and there's massive fires going on, and my brother-in-law's probably have to go up and fight a fire up there. Like this is like at the ski field they've got it going on. So that's from that side, and then from my side, I'm kind of just as soon as it makes logistical sense to be able to travel. Like I haven't been able to get home to New Zealand. I haven't been able to see anyone, and it's been kind of a bit of a trippy thing. I had like 5 trips. They were like kind of booked and cancelled, and I was supposed to come over right before it, and then I would have landed at 5 a.m. But at 1 a.m. they put the 2-week lockdown in, and I was like, stuff that, I'm not going to do that. So I waited, and then we came into lockdown and back and forth, and then I was supposed to be over again in January for this TV show thing, and my visa didn't come through with the green card, so I couldn't travel, and so that was a bummer because that would have been epic. And then so it's been surreal. I don't even know if I'm allowed to. Yeah, stuff I'll tell you. Stuff I'll tell you. You're
Go
on. I'd signed on to be the CEO of The Apprentice, and then I couldn't get over because my visa thing didn't come through, and they replaced me with Mike Pero. And it's cool because he's Māori from Aranui, so I'm hyped, and I'm gonna, I'm working with him on this other next thing, and it was all good because he's one of the bros. But my whole thing was going to flip the whole shit upside down. It was coming, it was going to be about like empowering startups, make it 100,000 prize purse, chuck them into, incubator, and just like wrap a whole layer of support to help build them up and kind of change the narrative around startups and entrepreneurs and small businesses in New Zealand. And I was going to launch a fund at the back of it, do seed investment and angel rounds for a whole bunch of new startups. And then I was going to chuck them all into a flipping big, massive sort of shared space and create a YouTube show off the back of it with cycle loops into itself, and then try and grow New Zealand businesses to make a better New Zealand through better business. But it never happened because I couldn't travel. I even got to actually wait. If you wait there one sec, wait there one sec. I'll show you what I was right there.
Here we go. Waiting one sec.
Okay. So this was no shit. This is what I had bought and was going to wear in the first episode. And they wanted me to wear a suit jacket and shit, and I was like, all right, well, this is how I'm rolling, and I was just going to roll straight up and then just like flip it, and so and I was just going to go so rogue. Like I had already told, like only a few people knew. I don't even know if I'm allowed to tell you, but stuff it, I'll tell you. I was going to come in so hot, dude. Like I'm the thing that I was going to like literally walk in, flip and smash it, and just make an absolute debauchery of the whole thing and make it epic. And then when my green card thing wasn't coming through because Trump was in, this is even the most ironic bit. Trump had kind of handbrake all the immigration stuff. My green card stamp to be able to travel was controlled by Trump, who ironically was blocking me from basically getting back to New Zealand for it to then film the show, which probably gives him royalties back in some way. So he was screwing himself by not helping me. How wild.
It's so good though. I mean, having the whole package around the back of it, what you're talking about,
mate.
Yeah, they would have been, because New Zealand needs something. They need a.
So that was my play, Ryan. That was my whole thing. I'd gone like stealth mode, drop this, flip and help change the narrative, shift it to the front, help lift entrepreneurships and startups, have a big fund at the back of it, consolidate with a bunch of different other either LPs or VCs and, PE crew and potentially iwi money, collectivize it all up and then roll it that way. It's like I'd be the butt of the joke and just steamroll it as like just the flipping goofball chief entertainment officer. But it wouldn't be about me. It's about like, how would you then help be like, holy shit, like you wear a t-shirt and start a business. Oh man, you can do, this and that. And so that was my play for last year. Did not eventuate, but I don't know if I broke it first. I don't think I'm going to get in trouble for telling you that, but I kind of don't really give a shit. So I've just told you, and here it is. And this is the hat. And I was going to just roll up with this. I wanted to flip the whole thing on its head, and it would have been epic.
That's all the red hat coming out the corner of the screen. I thought it was going to say, going to make New Zealand great again. As in a perspective.
I was like,
same. Yeah, man. You're hired. But yeah, flipping it from being, the way Trump was with being so sort of brutal and it's harsh to being supportive. So I was talking to JT, I think it was about the final. I was like, mate, how did you get a 67-page bloody file from one person and all these problems? And he's like, yeah, we weren't allowed to coach them. That's part of the thing. We're not allowed to coach them. We're allowed to comment and report back to the CEO, but we're not allowed to coach the people. I was like, that would have been so cool if you were coaching the people, because that's the whole point. Make them successful.
So and the best part of that was JT and Cassie were my advisors. They were my homies, and we were going to roll it.
Now it's coming to make sense.
So I've only got one. I only saw one episode, which was like a pilot one, but then my VPN thing blocked out TVNZ's server, so I haven't seen any of it. But I talked to Mike, and he said it, like, people were pumped on it, and some people were like, this is cool, this is rad, this is shit, whatever it was. But I had one. I thought the best feedback I got about it was a friend of mine's big governance, does a whole bunch of public stuff. She would watch the show with her 13-year-old, and the 13-year-old would get hyped because she could see what business could look like, and that never existed before. So I got hyped seeing that the impact of a vehicle can potentially part breadcrumbs of positivity around either business or growth or entrepreneurship and startups or small business or whatever it may be, and ideas and execution that never would have existed before. So for me, I was like, that's the why. Now the vehicle of is just a conduit, so it's like whatever. But yeah, in a nutshell, I was about to just steamroll a TV show, Ryan, and just make it cause a ruckus. It was going to be sick. And then I got really, no, this honestly, right, and then I got really down. I got really I got genuinely sort of, I don't get bummed often. I got bummed because I was like, this could have been a thing. And then like the UK version had like gone from like Sugar or something, had gone to like season 15. So I was like 35. I'm like, dude, I'll roll 15 years. This shit, that's like my middle, that's like 35, 50 done. Run a fund at the back of it, 50 different investments, have a portfolio. You're off to the races. Thanks for coming. Fun as shit to do, but who knows what happened. But I'm stoked Mike did it, and it was cool because he's a Māori from Aranui, so I was hyped. I was like, shit, yeah. And then so anyway, that was it. So there you go. You're breaking exclusives here, Ryan, just for you.
Right,
just for you.
There we go. Well, we had Neil Walker on yesterday, and I put up a post introducing him with breaking news. We're having Neil Walker, but here we go, breaking news. So what are we going to call you then? If you were going to be, we can't call you Trump.
No,
call you the CEO.
Chief Entertainment Officer. Yeah, Chief Entertainment Officer.
Right. Chief Entertainment Officer.
So it was my wave from last year, and then now I'm working on the next one. So that's part of the reason I've been off the grid too. So you'll see it in time, my friend, which will be cool.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, that's a great place to leave it. Leave it on a high, because we're just heading out 8:30, giving everyone half an hour of fun and joy from San Francisco. So just give you a moment to think of your closing remarks for everyone watching, especially New Zealand.
Oh, what was that, Ryan? Sorry, I got priorities over here.
I think you just made your closing remarks.
Hey? No, in all seriousness, I'll get serious for a second. What I don't want to have happen with New Zealand is to miss a massive big commercial swing at bat for the potential global commercial opportunities which we could be doing by bringing either the right talent or different business and stuff. The way I kind of look at it is, the world went on pause for a year. New Zealand could move, and I'm not sure if we truly capitalized the commercial opportunities globally that we could have done as a commercial magnet for others that needed to potentially set up different shops here to get movement or whatever. So from a regardless political or anything like stuff, all that shit, like that's not my lane. I care about like home of New Zealand and Aotearoa and businesses being better and all the rest of it, and I just don't want regret to be in the rearview mirror when we look back at this around what could have been done. And I think we, from a year ago when we did it, it's like it's time to reset and reimagine and re-engineer and re-flip and everything. It's like, yeah, great job, Johnny, but what have you actually executed in the last year? It's like I think that there is some bigger things at a macro level which we could be doing to try and entice more to a country which can do so much. And I think it will potentially build future resentment against ourselves as a nation for not being brave enough soon enough. to try these things, you know, because there's levels to this shit, right? The same thing, like you're in this bubble and it's not this suburb for that, it's not this island for that, it's New Zealand to the world. And you know, when you get to the perspective of being able to travel a lot and see a lot and talk to lots of smart people, and you know, like you'll be able to message, you know, prime ministers and whatever it may be. I don't want that to be a lost opportunity. And I think, you know, about a year and a bit ago, you know, when I was doing, and I interviewed Rob Fife talking about it, I was talking about, you know, before COVID, after COVID, like BC, AC. And he goes, it's actually the bit in the middle, which is during COVID, because we don't know how long this middle bit's going to be. And I was like, you're right. I'd thought of it like black and white, before, after, but this during bit, it's been 18 months or 16 months, whatever it is, right? We don't know this during. So I think the question to ask yourself would be, okay, if the economy is potentially going to be a stop-go traffic light, if there's going to be unknown and whatever, it's like, how do you reset the headspace of what you can create and how you operate for a consistent period of time when you might be in a traffic, you know, a stoplight economy like that, culturally, commercially, you know, safe for community, whatever it may be as well. So that would be my take on it from afar. And you know, obviously I don't know the nuances there, and because I haven't been on the ground in a minute, but the energy I can feel, I check in, and that's where my gut takes me.
Yeah, I think you'd have a lot of people agree with you, and on one of them. You know, we had things like Microsoft announced opening up a data center. I mean, as soon as it happened and it got announced, it went quiet. And of course, Kiwis went, "Oh, it's just Infratil. Infratil run all those for Microsoft." I was like, don't talk that way. Just be up on the fact that Microsoft's opening a data center in New Zealand. Now to get Google, AWS, I don't know, maybe even Facebook. Google's now employing people from New Zealand. Yay! But stealing all our talent that can't be employed by New Zealand. See, I think we've missed out huge opportunity, especially by not having some sort of tech visa, whether you call it that or not. But yeah,
just look at the export. Look at tech. I think tech's now the second biggest export for New Zealand. But I saw something like Graham and the NZ Tech crew came out with a thing like trying to do more for it. Like, look at the data. Say if you look at, you know, tourism or food, fishery, forestry, and whatever, it's one-to-one unscalable. There's a limited amount. Tech is weightless. Tech is global. And obviously, totally conflict of interest because used to be on the tech board, built tech companies, love tech, live tech. But from a financial scalable point, if physically stuff can't get out or can't get in, but something can that is weightless that can scale to a lot more. I just, you know, I really wish that New Zealand that the New Zealand CTO type, you know, little mini Avengers squad or something would have happened and been brave enough to put through a while ago, because I think New Zealand would have approached COVID differently if we had someone at the top table really driving home tech to the world, because, you know, money doesn't, you know, follow the numbers, and we're the second biggest export at the moment. And I think it's going to get bigger and bigger. So people can say I'm wrong, whatever, it's my opinion. But also the data doesn't lie, and there's more upside for something that's, you know, globally weightless and scalable than, you know, one more fish, you know, like
it's about as obvious as the sky being blue. Yeah. It's about as obvious as the sky being blue. You know, tech exports should have been our big focus. But you remember, or you may not remember, may not know, but when the first budget came out in COVID, there was not one piece dedicated to tech. 4 billion dedicated to shovel-ready products. We're going to sink it in the ground or build bridges. But not one part was dedicated to tech. There was a little bit tucked in some training budget somewhere, but nothing dedicated to tech, as in, you know, tech is the weightless export. Let's get learn to earn going. Let's get heaps of Kiwis that are doing nothing now because they can't do hospitality. Let's flip them over into tech, and there will be people that don't want to because it's not their thing. They're never going to get the thing they get. But there'll be a whole lot of people that'll be like, oh, I never thought about that. That's pretty cool. I like it. And there we would have had this army of people building up. They would have been gaining experience and have a year's experience now. They would have been out of their 3 months training wheels. BAs, PMs, product managers, you name it, bunch of coders. And yeah, we could have been building quite a outsourced army, but we're not quite.
Well,
anyone's
I
sitting
think
here going,
the answer,
we should have.
Yeah, the reality to that, if I was the government or anyone else, is probably just thinking, it would have been done if there were vehicles truly trusted to be able to do it on their behalf that could be de-risked enough that people wouldn't give enough kickback from, right? I think there is awareness for the need, there is acknowledgement for the need, but at the end of the day, maybe they just don't trust the current vehicles, whether that be people or organizations or whatever it may be. I mean, there's no other reason, right? Because if you look at the data, it's non-emotive, it's clearly on the up, but they don't know who to partner with. It's obviously a potential trust issue. So once again, it's potentially people. But if there are the right people and they're not being done, then clearly there's a bunch of kooky shit going on. But look, I appreciate your time doing this, Ryan. It's cool, and hopefully I have added a little bit of insights. You got an exclusive, which is cool. There you go.
Absolutely, mate.
Go exclusive.
You're hired. You're hired. You're so hired right now.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it,
mate. Well, look, we'll let you get back to the whānau. Hope you're having a brilliant and safe time over there, and thank you so much for popping in on Talanoa Live, sharing perspective of what's happening in San Fran and the States, and in short, the messages, people just rolling with it, and depending on what state you're in or where you are, it's a matter of doing what they do there and not what you do on the other side of the border. But thank you very much, and of course, amazing. Looking forward to season 2 and of the Apprentice. Is it even called The Apprentice?
I don't know if it's I don't know what's going to happen, but like Mike did, sweet, whatever. But if they want to, cause a flipping ruckus, then I still might not even work because I can't even get back home because the MIQ thing's all stuffed up with the tech. But that's a different another day. Appreciate you, brother.
All right, man. You have a good day. Thanks so much for being on.
Ciao, G. Later, bro.